Welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff here with co-host Chip. What is going on? It's been ages since we've seen you guys. We are excited to talk today about XRP setting off those buying signals. That's right. Setting off those buying signals. You know why? Because the SEC keeps losing. And was Gary involved in the dossier? We actually have some really interesting XRP topic to get into today. Chip, are you ready to kick this thing off?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Let's go.
So you weren't ready. You weren't ready with the finger. You got to be ready with the finger. Ready? Go.
Ready? Go.
Welcome to On the Chain.
LFG. I got my coffee this morning. Didn't forget about it. Man, tragedy actually occurred the other day when we ran out of coffee. I ordered new coffee and it didn't arrive.
Wait a minute.
We had no coffee yesterday. Completely out.
How does that happen, Jeff?
Tragic. I don't know.
How do you allow that to happen?
That's what I said. I said to my wife, I said, where's the stash? I thought you always had a stash of these. We order them 6 bags at a time, and there was nothing. So
that happens. You usually have a warning.
Coffee. I said, I've got coffee at the office, so I'm heading over there.
You know what I usually do is I stash like an extra something, like it's a hidden one. You know how like you have a secret 20 in your wallet always? Like you just put it in there and you forget about it? Yep. Secret 20. You always have to have a secret bag of coffee somewhere, but sometimes it's so secret you forget where it is.
But you know, the secret place was Publix, so I went and got some Illy Intenso, and I also got some Death Wish. So today's the Illy. I'm waiting for the Segfredo to show up. Hopefully that'll come within the next few days.
Beautiful.
Back on track.
Well, welcome everybody to On the Chain. Great to have you here. Great to welcome everybody from the Baba Discord. If you're coming over from there, look at this. We got one of our best friends and neighbors. We have Canada in the house today. We also have Texas. Guys, drop the city and the country where you are. If you're watching on the replay, drop it in the comments. We'd love to see it. We'd love to see where everybody's coming in from. Hans is absolutely hyped to go this morning. He's our official On the Chain producer. If you guys didn't know, says smash those likes. Does a great job. You guys see those shorts cut up? That's Hans. And if you guys go back and look at a segment and say, you know, Chip and Jeff talked about this one thing. I don't remember what it was. You go back to the video and you see the chapters. Yeah, that's Hans.
So, that's Hans Loaded.
Hans Loaded.
And there you go.
Hans
Good
Loaded.
morning, Toronto.
Toronto's in the house. That's right. Blockchain to bad job.
Chip, Toronto used to be a pretty cool city.
Oh, it's still a pretty cool city. It's just got
I'm sure it is.
It's still a cool city. I mean, I grew up right across the lake from Toronto, so if I could drive there, it would have been a lot sooner. So I was like on the other side of the lake, and got a lot of Canadian relatives.
North America, my top 3 cities, Chip: Toronto, Chicago, New York.
Toronto used to have a really great music scene as well, but it's got a cool culture up there, a great city. And I have to say that you know, growing up there, just right across the lake, going up to Toronto a lot, I used to love it. And if you ever get a chance to go to the Hockey Hall of Fame, man, it's a must see on any itinerary, especially if you're a hockey fan, or if you're not a hockey fan. It's something really cool.
That and the CN Tower. You go to the top.
CN Tower is
on the glass floor. Always very cool. And of course, One Rough Rican coming in.
Rican OG, always big top supporter. Thank you for that, Rican. And he's always coming in. He's always supporting. He's always in there. And
got Michigan. American Tough.
You're Michigan. Well, Michigan,
You were Michigan in that.
That's the you know, that's what they have on the
got a lot of
commercial here in Michigan.
Right. That's true. Yeah. All right. Let's go. What's the first topic we're going to talk about other than Gary Gensler hating all of us?
Well, I don't want to get into the topic you shared earlier, and there's a reason for that, but I don't think we want to jump into that.
No, we'll get to that later.
Well, I don't think we get to it much later because I don't not even like past this show. But I hate when we have a story, and then the story's
doesn't develop.
You got to be a subscriber. Yeah, that too. It's like, well, sign in here, are you a member and all that. It's like, come on, man. I'm just gonna read it. I'm gonna give you guys exposure. Okay. Jeff and I will expose you guys and give you some exposure. Someone will go there, but it's like, no. Well, you have to. Do you want what kind of billing do you want here? And it's like, I really don't want to do that. So it's just we have this one here.
Let's jump right into the Bitso CRDT XRP.
Actually, before we do that one, I want to jump in this one. This is a pretty big development here. We've got the Binance Card is now allowing users to have access to XRP,
SHIB,
Shiba Inu, and AVAX Avalanche. So
Oh, yeah.
Binance Card holders now have access to 14 supported cryptos, including XRP and Shiba Inu and also Avalanche.
Now, is
And
that's Binance Global, not Binance.us?
correct, I believe so. But at least there's not a restriction there. So they announced on Friday that the Binance Card now supports these 3 new altcoins. We just got to lose that whole altcoin thing. I'm so tired of altcoin. Altcoin has this thing like it's an alternate coin, meaning it's not Bitcoin. How about we just say a token? How about we say a new coin? Or how about supports, something, digital assets, probably the best to say, Jeff, but allows its holders to convert and spend cryptos and over 60 million online. Now, I do remember that Uphold had a thing where they said they weren't going to allow you to use XRP anymore. Is that something that we reported something on that recently? And however, the card is only available to European citizens and, according to the website, Ukrainian refugees. Prior to the escalation and blah, 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 with the latest edition, the card now supports 14. And here they are: Cardano, Avalanche, BNB. Of course, they're going to support BNB, Bitcoin, Binance USD, which is the BUSD, Polkadot, Ether, and the SS Lazio fan token.
Never heard of it.
FC Porto fan token. These must be football tokens. I think they're football tokens. Santos FC Football Club. Yeah, these are football tokens. Shiba Inu, Swipe, Tether, and they did it again, Jeff. Ripple, XRP.
Ripple.
No, it's just XRP.
Wait, who wrote this article?
Who is this article from? This one is it's Coin Telegraph, which is one of the bigger ones. Savannah Fortis.
They're constantly doing that. It's really bad form, because we all know at this point, all you have to do is say XRP. You don't have to say Ripple and then XRP. It's just XRP. Everybody knows the asset XRP. It's really bad form, bad editorship. So
yeah, it is. It's been propagated throughout media, and they just can't. They think they're interchangeable. They're not. But again, only people who are very steeped understand the difference. So this one here, it says also the development comes one day after Binance announced its partnership with MasterCard to bring prepaid cards to Argentina. The two financial service providers will team up in an effort to broaden payment possibilities to Binance users in the country. Argentinian clients will be able to use BTC and BNB, among other cryptos, for purchases and withdrawals wherever MasterCard is accepted. So that's kind of a cool development. You really see how
really massive.
The traditional cards, credit cards like MasterCard and American Express, Discover, Visa, other ones are embracing blockchain.
It's a big deal. And one of the things that they're, focusing on are, more of the countries at need, so where you see a lot of unbanked individuals. And so we're starting to see really a, big momentum here. And I don't always like, just referencing the unbanked, but, from a financial perspective, it's really a major issue on a global scale. How many people operate outside of the traditional financial ecosystem, and so they just live in fiat, and then they don't have access to all the typical, banking technologies that we all do. Obviously no online banking, obviously no credit cards, obviously no car loans, leases, business loans, mortgages, strictly just, fiat. You earn it, you spend it, which makes advancing, within the global financial ecosystem more and more difficult, and especially even just regionally. So Chip, when I see things like this, they're one of the things that we hear a lot was this movement to say we want to help the unbanked, but then when you see an exchange like Binance actually making this credit card available and trying to get people more actively involved, the question that I have is, when you go into these countries, these individuals that are unbanked, how do you get them into the whole digital asset ecosystem when you need to connect a bank to the ecosystem? How do you get your money there? Chip.
That is a good question, Jeff. I don't. You're talking about how do you go from fiat to what? Digital?
Yeah, how do you go from fiat if you're unbanked, right? And so they're trying to make it more readily available, because maybe banking is expensive in a lot of countries. It's not always accessible or easily readily available. So how do you go from fiat to digital if you don't have a bank?
Well, I think probably the answer to that is that we start moving out of this mindset of this on ramp, off ramp, and digital asset is the way. But how do you're unbanked, you have a wallet. At some point that needs to get into your wallet. How does it get there? Does it go through fiat? But I think at some point down the line we'll lose this whole conversation about fiat because it'll just become the digital asset. So for example, I have XRP and I have a wallet on my phone, and I'm in a country, or I'm in the US or somewhere, I'm unbanked. I don't have a bank, but I do have a mobile phone, and I do have a way to have that value transferred. So whatever I'm doing, that value can be transferred to XRP, and then from XRP it can go pretty much any place else.
Anywhere.
But I do get the point, because if you don't have an exchange, you're thinking, well, how do I get that? The key is going to be that merchants, anybody who gets some kind of payment will accept digital assets. The end. And then once they do that, then we don't have to worry about which fiat currency and the conversion and the time. You just will go ahead and send your XRP. You'll send your Avalanche, you'll send your Cardano, your ETH, whatever it may be. You just send the value that way.
Yeah, I agree with that also. And here Jim D is saying the unbanked laborers take their pay to kiosks to buy crypto. So the question is, and I get that, is there going to be an extortion, percent fee to make that happen? Hopefully, that. But I like the idea that, as you're getting people more actively involved, and pretty much, on a global scale, people have mobile phones now. They're pretty much readily available to people, whether they're banked or not, like you said. And so I like that notion. It'd be easy then to transfer payment to people. Say, hey, I just sent, you just got paid for the day. Now instead of having to wait for the week or whatever, here you go. And it just came to you in XRP or, another asset, depending on the region. XRP sounds pretty good. Maybe it's XLM. I don't know. Maybe XDC. Maybe it'd be one of these assets that have low cost to transfer.
Yeah, well,
I
think if merchants use the XRPL or some sort of type of a payment system, they can accept. They don't really care what digital asset it is. They just can accept them all. It's like we accept digital assets here, and then you can go ahead and scan a code, and it'll do all the work for you. This is interesting right here. Gamer for Life said he got banned by Twitter for pointing out Gensler's criminality for what the law says punishment for such crimes. But I follow the Twitter rules, so go figure. So I don't know if it was a ban or if it was a temporary timeout. It really depends there. Alchemist I want to jump into this news next, but Alchemist is bringing up John Deaton is his hero. I think he's all of our hero. I think we can claim global ownership to John Deaton. I mean, he's a really phenomenal. We got to he's
amazing.
gone. He turned out to be, a hero always emerges, and it is got a name. It's John Deaton, and we have other people supporting like Jeremy Hogan and James Filan, who's been giving us the, as soon as a document hits the dockets, anything hits the docket on this case, he's out there, and he's also providing commentary as well. So there's a lot of heroes emerging from this, and something they didn't bank on. We are very close to 70,000. I know John Deaton put something out yesterday. We're just shy of 70,000. Guys, if you can go ahead and connect to Congress, you can post that link there. Someone go post it in the comments, because I want everybody, I don't care if you live in the US, I don't care where you live, go ahead and do that. Let's get that. That's a nice round number. That's what Jeremy Hogan was saying. Hey, 70,000 is nice. 67,432. Yeah. 70,000 people. 70,000. You think about a football stadium, and you think about 70,000 fans gathering. It's a pretty good chunk of change.
It's never happened ever before in history where the retail consumers, gathered in mass numbers on a global scale to come after the SEC for their infringement.
Yeah, and then we're going to jump into this next story here, but hoping the Coinbase relationship with BlackRock will quell the SEC investigation. Curious about your thoughts. Well, that's a story we have, Thomas Brennan, so I appreciate everybody bringing that up.
That's a really good one, so we'll get into that in a minute.
We should just jump into it now. Why not? I mean, that
was a quick minute.
It was a quick minute. Why not? It's everyone's talking about it. Let's jump into it. We'll move it ahead of the stack. But this is from Coinbase. Coinbase selected by BlackRock. If you don't know who BlackRock is, you might have been living under a rock, but BlackRock is a huge finance. Between BlackRock and there's probably one other one out there that is as big as BlackRock. They're just incredibly massive as far as a financial organization, and they own pieces of pretty much every company you've ever heard of. Will provide Aladdin clients access to crypto trading and custody via the Coinbase Prime. And then the TLDR, which is too long, didn't read. That means if you don't want to read the entire article, this is what it is. Coinbase and BlackRock create new access points for institutional crypto adoption by connecting Coinbase Prime and Aladdin. And there it is right there. And this is the official, was also covered in a news over on Barron's, which is interesting because Barron's is very traditional in nature. You don't see a lot of, they talk about markets and finance and mostly around the stocks. But it's nice that they put something like this up because it's institutional, which is probably why they did cover it. But they put this up here. Coinbase stock soars on the exchange that with partnership with BlackRock. And you have here,
and it's interesting too with Aladdin. So I'm wondering if this is the same Aladdin that I pulled up that's on Coinbase, ADN. I wonder if they're referencing the same, but it says Aladdin is not supported by Coinbase, but the price valuation at 0.0003. I wonder if that's the same one.
Well,
but
Aladdin
is
DAO. Yeah, well, I don't think Aladdin is an institutional, aren't they? Don't they deal with institutional investors? Aladdin?
They do, yeah, but I'm trying to figure out which one is the correct one. So you got Aladdin crypto wallets, you've got just the pricing, you have the Aladdin exchange, you have the Aladdin DAO.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a crypto, it's a company.
Right. Yeah, so I'm just trying to figure out more on that. Trying to get the actual, but all right, let's keep going.
I was trying to find their website, and all I'm getting is Disney's Aladdin, so it's like that's like great. Not exactly what I was looking for. So it says that Coinbase is partnering with BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, to provide institutional clients of Aladdin, BlackRock's end-to-end investment management platform. Okay, so that's Aladdin is what they call their investment management platform. So it's a BlackRock platform. So you had to go to BlackRock and then probably look for Aladdin on there. It's not a digital asset. So BlackRock's end-to-end investment management platform with direct access to crypto, starting with Bitcoin through connectivity with Coinbase Prime. Coinbase Prime will provide crypto trading, custody, prime brokerage, and reporting capability to Aladdin's institutional client base, which are also clients of Coinbase. So it's a big deal. And if you don't think how big the deal is, we're talking about trillions and trillions and trillions are sitting on the sidelines right now. And so, and I know I actually saw Ben Armstrong, BitBoy, talking about this, and he was flipping out saying, well, this is a bad thing. And, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. It's like institutional investment is exactly a great thing. I mean, you're talking about if you have this influx of trillions, we have at our best, at our peak in the digital asset market cap, Jeff, I think we were at 3 billion. I mean, $3 trillion, give or maybe a little bit over 3 trillion. Now you're talking about anywhere from $3 to $6 trillion ready to enter the space, sitting on the sidelines. And people say, well, it's Bitcoin and this and that. And I know some of the Bitcoin maxis are upset about this because they think about, oh, how's this manipulating price? And, you're going to have large dumps. Somebody buys it. There's a little bit of movement in Bitcoin. They dump a bunch. Well, guess what, guys? That's happening now. We don't necessarily need institutional money, but to sit there and believe that's always a possibility. But why would you have such a negative take on it? I don't personally get it. I think
I see we're seeing development of the space, Chip, and that's why there's too much polarization, within the space still. In the space, people are still looking at some of these assets or companies, treating them more like sports teams, and so then you get the rivalry going, and that's where you get the maximalism. So you get the Bitcoin maximalists, and they think that as they're the first in, but they're going to consider themselves the only. Then you have all these rival teams out there. But the key with all of this is really, starting to see the institutions that are gravitating. So I think you bring up some really solid points here. So as we see like this project here, with BlackRock is built on Aladdin, but really the point is the institution. Like you said, imagine how much money is coming into the space through the institutional investors. And so as you see this, the partnerships, developing, and we're seeing that with so many of these big projects, the institutional investors are coming, and they're coming in large volume, and they're bringing huge amounts of money with them. And that's where you start to get true mainstream adoption. It's going to come through them, and it's going to be massive. Gamer for life. Watch the other financial institutions FOMO. Now the BlackRock is in, and that's Chip. I think that's the exact point.
Exactly.
You get one in, and the others are going to sit on the sideline and say, "Well, we can't sit on the sidelines." These guys can't one up us and take our clients.
Like, I can see Vanguard being probably following the lead, and what you're going to see is a lot of more institutional money come in. But again, is the water safe? A lot of what's going on with the SEC. That's why, okay, let's see you go up against BlackRock, because Ripple is this big and Ripple has enough to back it to go battle the SEC. But BlackRock is on a whole different level as far as the value. They're the largest asset asset institution. Deep pockets. Don't mess with them. They'll have the best. Yeah. So there you go.
And Chip, this I think really highlights and underscores how significant BlackRock is. This from Lee saying, he's saying, "Good morning. BlackRock headquarters in NYC, but the family originates from Connecticut. He lives a few minutes from there, but streets, schools, churches around the entire county are named BlackRock." So if you ever want to say, hey, does this, is there some significance here? There is.
And also this, look at that from Thomas Brennan. Thank you so much for that.
Thomas.
Yeah, I really appreciate the support, guys. Always great just to have you guys in here with your incredible commentary. But thank you, Thomas. Really appreciate that. Super sticker. We can't see the sticker, but I'm sure it's something outstanding. But thank you for that support. And if you guys want more related XRP content like this, simply go ahead and subscribe. Click that notification bell. That way you're notified when we go live. Jeff and I were analyzing the channel the other day. We're looking at some stats, and it turns out that we've got a really loyal following. Jeff, do you remember what the ratio was on a percentage? How many?
Well, the last video, we were 87% of all the views came from subscribers, and 13% were from new subscribers or new viewers. And it's interesting because at one point we were like 60-40. 60 for subscribers. And I know it kind of flip-flopped. We were close to like a 50-50 at one point. It was
actually the opposite of that.
It was opposite. Yeah.
Subscribers, 60% unsubscribed.
Yeah. So it's amazing. I mean, the loyalty that we have, and that's why we have the best and the brightest in YouTube crypto space, because we have amazing people that gather with us, which is outstanding. But we still want to get the message out. We got right now 152 people on a global scale here watching, from all over the world, which is fantastic.
Incredible. I want to throw this last bit up here because I think this is really key. The best part of the article says, "This is built for institutions. Coinbase Prime integrates advanced agency trading, custody," which is going to be really key for institutional. Obviously, a lot of other organizations use Coinbase for custody. Prime financing, there you go, staking, and a complete staking infrastructure, data and reporting that supports the entire transaction lifecycle. So when you're dealing with institution, this is also key. You definitely need reporting across the entire transaction lifecycle. This is very key, especially for institutional investors are going to need this. So they're bringing all the important elements. But I think, Jeff, what's interesting here is the prime financing, the staking, and also the staking infrastructure. That's going to be key. So you're talking about putting $1 trillion into staking.
No, it's a major infrastructure. So to have this is, to me, one of the biggest moves right now that we're witnessing in crypto. And so one of the conversations, Chip, that we've had is, yes, we look backwards, right? Look at what's happened in the past 10 years. Look how far this space has come. Look at how it's become, globally recognized, right? And so now that was the last 10 years, 10, 11 years. What's going to happen in the next 10, 11 years? I mean, we can't even fathom the direction this is moving in. There's such a major push right now talking about CBDCs. And I saw someone reference that there won't be there won't be transaction in crypto being CBDCs. But look at Japan just turned down CBDCs. They said nobody wants it and nobody cares about it, and one of the biggest concerns with a central bank digital currency is always going to be privacy and government control. And if government is in control of the CBDC, we potentially have major issue if there's no mechanism in place to protect your privacy. But imagine it's a third party that is controlling it. Imagine there's some central bank that is now in charge of it that doesn't report back to the electorate. So it has a lot of issue, baked into it, and I think that's what people are seeing right now. One of the reasons, again, why Japan said that their population has turned down, that there's zero interest in CBDCs. So
I think there's zero interest in most countries, Jeff. I mean, I think you're eliminating a very strong topic here because, and I think the thing is central. That first C, C stands for central, and in the digital asset space, we're looking for decentralization. Decentralization is equivalent to freedom, and I also think what's happening, and what's really interesting about this BlackRock development, this Aladdin arm for the institutional investors partnering with Coinbase, is that now you see massive panic mode, kicking in, and you see this with banks. You're going to see this with central banks. Then you see the call to eliminate, especially here in the U.S., get rid of the Fed, because the Federal Reserve and most central banks, they're not sovereign. It's a third party. It's an independent organization that generally does not have any sort of audit process. So we've never audited the Federal Reserve since 1913, and it went into effect. There's a whole story about that too. Hang on a second. If you go read Jekyll Island, that whole how the whole Federal Reserve, and it goes even deeper. If you'll notice, three of the biggest opponents to the Federal Reserve somehow were invited on the Titanic, which sank in the ocean and then quelled those voices. And then in the dead of night in December, when Congress was basically not in session, all of a sudden we've got a new central bank. And you saw that central banks, the founders of this country, were against central banks. They were against the whole thing. We've had three total. Two of them were eliminated. The third one, I believe, in our lifetime will also be eliminated. And because we have decentralization, and I want to see, everyone's all freaking out about the governments, Jeff, like, oh, well, who's going to use Bitcoin and adopt it as a currency? That's great. But who's going to be the first government to be run as a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, where true people have a real say in what happens? We needed representatives to go fight for us. The representatives got influenced by big money. They decided they were smarter than us, and they decided they knew better than us, and they no longer represent we the people.
Yeah, you bring up a really, critical point here, because, as we start moving in that direction to full decentralization, I don't think it's going to be the US. I think it's probably going to be a smaller country. I think we're starting to see some rumblings of that in some of the smaller island nations, to where, they have a smaller population. Maybe it's going to be a little bit easier for them to implement something like that. There's a lot of resistance in the power struggle for reasons that, some of the power players aren't going to want that, because this is where their money comes from, and it's generational. So it's generational wealth that they're not willing to relinquish, because they have money coming in on a regular basis as a result. But Devon brings up an interesting point here. Greece has been rolling out a digital version of their national ID card, which I think includes their driver's license. This could be good. It could be bad. It could simplify your process, because maybe you have it on your mobile phone. You don't have to worry about paper if you want to go to a completely paperless society. But again, the countries have a history of problems. Greece is definitely no stranger to shutting people's access to their bank accounts. And it's happened, not too long ago in our history. So we have a lot of concern that, imagine now they have a digital version of your national ID card or your driver's license or your paperwork, and that's it. And they decide one day, well, we're cutting off access. I don't think I would ever want to relinquish access to a paper form of a passport or whatever it might be. But we're in a society that we also have to have some level of trust that the government is representing the people, to the people's interest. and it is all about the people. It's not about the government, those that are elected or the bureaucrats. And I think people are finally waking up to that fact. the what?
The bureaucrats. That's a horrible. It's a horrible word and a horrible. Everything is bad about that. Even the word is bad about that. Then we have this right here. Well, you have this right here. Nothing. Thanks from Aussie M8. Thank you for that support. Nothing is going to plan. Nothing is going according to plan, but it's all falling into place. Great work, Jeff and Chip. Thank you so much, Aussie M8. Aussie. Appreciate that. Appreciate that, man. And look at this, Jeff. I wanted to. Oh yeah. Thought it was important. Australia. We have a lot. We have so many Aussie fans and Kiwi fans and New Zealanders as well, which is really cool. I really love it. I love our international audience. And Justin, this was every U.S. cryptocurrency exchange and Binance is being investigated by the SEC, says Senator Lummis's staffer. So I wanted to put this up there, Jeff, because I tweeted this out. That John Deaton correctly predicted that Gary Gensler would sue exchanges last month with this was on the Clayman countdown. He was on there, and he said that he was on there with Liz Clayman on Fox Business. And let's roll this clip here. It's a short one.
You have the video? Nice.
Yeah.
Play that video.
Liz, I went on record to say I believe Gary Gensler is going to sue an exchange, whether it's Coinbase or Binance or another exchange in the United States by the end of the year.
Okay.
Liz, I went on record.
So there you go. That's it. That was the little short bit that I pulled out of that. He went on record. Now, the funny thing is, he said this before. This happened to be at the end of July. But he was like Binance or Coinbase. Basically, all of them was with that because
they want to come after all of them.
Jeff, do you think that the reason they're pushing towards the exchanges because of what's happening in LBRY case and also what's what's happening with the Ripple case? You think they're like, okay, let's just move to the exchanges?
Without a doubt. I mean, they're losing. They're losing on a rapid scale, and it's amazing. It's their own fault. They kind of position themselves to lose. They've got someone that doesn't really care about this space, and we're watching that video on Wednesday, going through back from 2018, and Gary Gensler. It was very evident, that he had some animosity to the crypto space, and he has animosity to the retail investors, and he has animosity to people making money outside of their controlled institution. And so, one of the things as they've gone after the crypto investors, they've gone after some of the builders in the space. What's the next relevant place? Okay, if we can't take down the builders, then let's take down the exchanges where these are being traded. And again, we have to think about the competition that these crypto exchanges are posing to the big financial institutions. So this is, the Charles Schwabs of the world. I don't know is E-Trade still a thing or did it get bought out? Whatever exchange is out there, they're being threatened on a huge scale. Think about Robinhood was knocking at their door and they saw a huge amount of threat from Robinhood. But now forget about Robinhood. The bigger threat to their domination in this space are these big exchanges, because from crypto, they can easily segue into the tokenization of securities, whereas these other exchanges cannot easily segue into crypto or the tokenization of securities. It's not going to be so simple for them. They move really, really slow, as we've seen. And so I think that's the bigger threat. That's the bigger play. They're going to try to take this down at all cost. They don't care about the investors.
No.
They don't care about the collateral damage. It's all about them. It's all about their control of the financial institution control of the space. And it's interesting too, because if you just look at the institution, you could say, well, they want to get into crypto. Well, they want control over the crypto, but there's still power players, Chip, I believe, behind these big financial institutions. And Gensler is just a representative of that larger power play. And we're seeing it all play out. So 2018 forward, 4 years ago, we saw that he had that animosity and he questioned the growth of this space. And, he came in as the enforcer. And it's bad form, but it's not going to last. We, the people, have risen up.
Now look who it is. Bala Cogs right there. Well, look who it is. There you go. And I've said that he's put together an amazing community Discord, which brings the community together, lots of articles and stuff. And of course, we have a channel over there. We have a on the chain channel over there, which is fantastic. I think what we're seeing, Jeff, this right here, I want to say that I'm just loving what's happening. If people are paying attention and they're not getting caught up and yeah, okay, you can say ETHgate and this and that, but don't worry, all that stuff kind of works its way out. We've got a big red tsunami coming. But look at this right here. Jeremy Hogan put this out, and I love the way he languages this. This, kids, is what we used to call investigative journalism. It's journalism that opens your eyes and makes you go, wow, fireworks are coming in the crypto space. And this is talking about, it's just what it used to be called, because we don't see this much anymore, Jeff, in the space.
Right.
It's not even
not at all.
So you have every U.S. crypto exchange and Binance being investigated. And because they locked us out there, we're going to go to their competitor. We'll go over here to Crypto Briefing. So reportedly probing Binance and every other crypto exchange. Look, it has to be said, Gensler and the SEC, they're absolutely out of control. They've lost their mind. They're going after everything, and it's gonna come back. Listen, man, karma, as they say, is a bitch. And when it comes back and bites you, it's just, Jeff, like how you always talk about the oversteering and the pendulum. Pendulum swings both ways, and when it comes back with a vengeance. So I think
back with a vengeance, and it's
coming. It's coming in a big way. It says
they can't stop it.
They can't stop it.
Artificially pulled the pendulum so far to the left and so far into insanity, but they've artificially done it. Right? Think about the pendulum swinging, and you're on the other side, and you're pushing it. Right? At some point, the resistance, you can't hold it up anymore. When it comes swinging back, you can't stand in front of it, and it's coming, and it's going to be amazing because it writes everything right back into the laps of the people, and it's going to benefit everybody. And I think that's the best part.
Oh yeah, and look at this. And are we witnessing like a big showdown? So the CFTC, the reason you don't hear much about them is because they basically regulate commodities. They look at digital assets as a commodity, at least the majority of them. The SEC thinks that every digital asset is a security, and that's what they do. That's what the SEC regulates, securities. So they're like, they're all securities. And then, so meanwhile, here's how crazy it is. You have Coinbase, which is regulated, which had an IPO, which had to clear everything through the SEC as far as the Securities and Exchange Commission. To go public, it's incredible. The financial data you got to put forward and prepare. When you say people, we're going public, it's a big deal. They have to hire certain kind of accountants and to get everything in order. It takes about 2 years to put it all together, make it presentable. They went through it all. And they also went to the SEC, I should say Coinbase also went to the SEC before they decided to carry and put XRP in their platform. Didn't say anything. So this right here, this doesn't bode well. And the financial regulator faces a battle with the Commodity Futures and Trading Commission as it attempts to establish itself as the market's main U.S. regulator. And it's really time for Congress to step in, Jeff. This is getting to be absolutely ridiculous.
Yep, it's too much. Yeah, I want to go to some of these comments here. We got some great comments. Got Walter. I love you guys. Your show keeps me updated with XRP and the snake. Gary the nose. Keep up the excellent work. I hope the Ripple case goes all the way. The SEC needs its ass kicked. That's a good comment. We got Richard. Government does nothing unless it benefits them. No one and no thing can serve two masters. Digital IDs are all about control. Greeks should be concerned. Agree. Jeff, one of the most intelligent shows going. Thank you. BlackRock will have more influence in crypto than Gary Gensler. And then see here. Jim D. Gensler seems intent on destroying America's great hope to lead the cryptoverse. And then one more comment here with Richard. SEC doing exactly what the Shermanator instructed them to. Shermanator is trying to bring America down. What do you think about those comments, Chip? You see a continuous theme.
Well, I just love how informed everybody is. This is what I love. Everybody, this is an informed audience. I mean, people, the reason that you enjoy the show is because it's echoing a lot of what you've been digging, you've been looking, your viewpoints, and sometimes people agree with us, sometimes they don't, but that's okay. I mean, we want to have that dialogue. We put comments up there that people like, they disagree. This is what's called Discord. It's healthy to talk this out, Jeff. I mean, it's great.
There you go. You can't go public and commit a crime at the same time.
I was absolutely right about that. You cannot go public. It's like, wait a minute, can you do that? I mean, is that a possibility? And that's again, this is how ridiculous it's getting. It's getting to the point. There was something really great that, we played that video from that tweet there. I'll throw this one up here. This is, so JC Hodler put this up. He said, GateHub is hardly the only one allowing users to trade XRP. Firms like Uphold, too, voiced its support to keep XRP until the lawsuits resolve. And I think this is important to remember, because everybody else is like, oh no, forget it. And they're like, well, why? It's not a security until it's proven a security. How will anybody know? So Uphold, you got to give them a lot of credit, because they did not cower, they did not bend, and they did not bend the knee to the SEC, because there is no definition, and they're the only ones really out there supporting this, where everybody else cowered and bent the knee and said, oh, I don't know. I mean, we have to do this. And so John Deaton tweeted this out, quoting this tweet, said, it would be great if exchanges like Uphold and GateHub attempted to file amicus briefs to the federal judge when there is motion practice in the SEC v. Ripple case. Exchanges should get together, discuss legal options considering this, and it's potentially bigger than just one crypto. He's absolutely right on that, Jeff. What are your thoughts on what on this amicus briefs he's suggesting here?
I think, first and foremost, we're seeing a complete overreach, so 100%. And it all goes back to this point. This case with the SEC against Ripple is really a signal to all out there, whether they're exchanges or other builders in the space. We just saw what happened with LBRY. So I think it is critical. I think we definitely need to, see them get together. We have to see all the exchanges get together. There has to be, we just talked about the fact that Gensler is going after the exchanges, so on their own, I'm sure they all have deep pockets, just like Ripple, and they can fight individually and they can wait one by one by one. But imagine if the entire industry finally gets together behind and files, you can either file as, one entity, or get together and have every single company file, or, different industry sectors file. Maybe all the exchanges get together, and then you have builders in the space, and they all come after what the SEC is doing, because it's really, really destructive. So I'm looking forward to seeing some positive outcome like that.
Yeah, I think we're all looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a big deal. I wanted to put this up here too. This is in line with kind of what we were talking about a little bit earlier here, but let's look at this here. This is Brian Costello put this out. He said, a special counsel needs to investigate the SEC, a comprehensive exam of the SEC's 10-year China sellout and the government's failure to protect America. And of course, Alexander Hamilton, let's put this up here. The Securities and Exchange Commission, here, I wanted to put this one up here. Hamilton, this is from the Federalist Paper 22. And again, guys, I'm a big fan of the Federalist Papers. This is kind of what determined, there's so much, man, they really need to make a movie about the Federalist Papers, because there's so much fighting and there's so much drama going on, and the fighting to about 20 years would eventually become the U.S. Constitution. But the Federalist Papers were a precursor to that. And Hamilton said this on December 14th, 1787. He said, one of the weak side of republics, among their numerous advantages, is that they often afford too easy an inlet to foreign corruption. And history furnishes us with so many mortifying examples of the prevalency of foreign corruption in republican governments. And in other words, governments that are republics. And he's absolutely right about that. And one of the biggest ones is the federal, get rid of that. But one of the biggest ones, and this is what it has to do with these central banks, because
exactly,
that's one of the bigger parts of where you get the corruption from. And
let me put this up, Chip, because I think this kind of feeds into what we're looking at, and from case to case, whether you're following or not. And LBRY has been on the forefront right now, but here you go. This just dropped on Thursday, but the SEC has requested the transcript of our most recent hearing be sealed from the public for 90 days. Why 90 days? Why seal it? And I like someone knows they effed up. So imagine that. Imagine again, the SEC is filing suit against you, right? And then they come out and they say, no, we want the entire transcript sealed from public view. This is so corrupt. It's so wrong on so many different levels. But the SEC is stepped in it. They're in so much. You remember in Back to the Future when Biff kept getting manure dumped in his car and everything in Back to the Future 2. He ran into the manure, and so this is exactly like the SEC is Biff, and they're getting manure dumped into their car over their head on a regular basis, from what they do. But here we have Warren Davidson. Today, I joined 21 members of the House Financial Committee calling on the SEC to immediately rescind their proposed climate change rule in light of EPA v. West Virginia. Thanks, Rep. John Rose, for leading the effort. Congress writes law, not bureaucrats. And this is, so when we talk about the overreach of the SEC, it's not just revolving around crypto. It is a complete totalitarian overreach of the space to where they believe these guys are not elected. These guys are not Congress. These guys are hired bureaucrats, and they believe in their heart, in their action, that they have the legitimacy to actually write laws, and they are completely acting against the fabric of this country and against the Constitution by what they're doing. And unfortunately, they have to be reminded of it over and over and over again.
Leave that other tweet up there. Now, Jeff, you and I have been echoing this sentiment since the SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States, released EPA v. West Virginia. Don't worry about what it is about. Everyone can say, well, they can do this. What it's about is overreach. The EPA was going ahead and creating legislature based on interpretation. And what happened with the Supreme Court was they said, well, no, you can't go ahead and create legislature out of that's Congress's job. You can't relinquish it to a third party. Congress can't relinquish its duty to say, well, we'll have an agency and you guys figure it out. And I think the reason that, and you and I have been citing this, we've been ringing this bell since this decision came down. And you see, Warren Davidson, red team from the House. And what I love, he says right here, their proposed climate change rule in light of EPA v. West Virginia. West Virginia took the EPA to court, all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they won because you cannot create legislation. You cannot create rulings. And and this is where I think a lot of people, Jeff, get it incredibly wrong. What is exactly happening people are going, well, the SEC needs to make clear guidelines. No, they don't. They are only a regulatory body. They enforce the laws. There is no law. It's wonky. It's gray matter. It's not written in stone. And this is another problem with Congress is they do broad brush stuff. They write it so wide that it can open to interpretation because and the reason they do that is because they don't want it to be so narrow-minded because in case they screw something up.
Yep. and most of the laws are like, 5,000 or 6,000 pages. So who knows what's in all that stuff. But this is really poignant, right here. Congress writes the laws, not the bureaucrats, and they need to wake up. They need to realize that. And so, as we mentioned, Gensler isn't just trying to step on crypto. He's trying to step on companies on a broad scale, just toting the ideology. But the ideology has nothing to do with saving the climate. Their ideology has nothing to do with saving anything other than enriching themselves. Because if they really believed, and you would see it in their action, and their action is the polar opposite of what they say. You know why? Because it is good for you, but not for them, because you are the ones that need to be groveling at their feet, and they want to suck every last dime out of you so they can live the lavish, lush life. And so that is something that we have to be, cognizantly aware of when we go through this. That DNI, he said, about the third month after I got my government job, a friend who had worked there told me, forget about the job you were hired for. Your new job is to protect your job, then retire. There you go.
Sounds like, and that doesn't sound hard to swallow at all. Not even a little bit. But Jeff, what's funny? Do you remember who the SEC chair was before Gensler? It was Clayton, right? Who was it before that? Nobody cares. Nobody knows. You want to know why? Because Gensler will go down as the fool. He gambled it all. He wanted the enforcement pillars, and he's going to lose it all. He'll be the fool. He'll go down as a loser, and he'll still have his $120 million estate that he doesn't care. It's all about this power. And Deaton put this up here. He said a synopsis of the SEC v. LBRY summary judgment transcript. As I said during the Crypto Laws live stream after watching the SEC v. LBRY summary judgment argument, below is my single biggest criticism and observation along with direct quotes from the hearing. We're not going to get into all of it, but I think some of it's worth taking a look at. He said, the judge asked the SEC's lawyer, do you concede that there is what I think LBRY is calling a consumptive use for LBC, which is their token? The SEC lawyer says, we do, Your Honor, but not the entire time of the offering. Then the court says, well, when does something that has a consumptive use and that LBRY would say is a commodity shade into a security? The SEC lawyer, well, Your Honor, I first would say you don't start with the presumption that something is a commodity. You apply the Howey test first. So the court, well, I think it's undeniable that people are acquiring LBC for investment reasons. I think it's undeniable that people are acquiring LBC for consumptive reasons. How do I determine in a case where some investors are acquiring for consumptive and some for investment? The court continues. How do I determine whether in that case it meets the first component of the third element of the Howey test? The SEC lawyer, Your Honor, I agree. It's a tricky problem not fully addressed by the law. Of course it's not fully addressed by the law. That's the whole point of this.
This is the whole point. You know, and Gensler did say it once. He said if they want to write the laws, it's Congress' responsibility to provide the clarity. And he realized that in the absence of that clarity, he's going to do whatever the hell he wants to do. And he's trying to establish not just his own legacy and his own, monetary gains for his future. We're talking about financial legacy, but those of his overseers. And so this is a very, very solid point, and probably why they want to hide all of these notes from public purview. And mainly because they've screwed up over and over and over again. They don't have authority, and it's becoming very, very blatantly obvious that they don't have the authority to do and say what they're saying.
This is exactly right. I mean, it's like, so the SEC lawyer continues. And in fact, there's a third possibility, which what if someone buys 1,000 LBC wanting to spend 10 and then hold on to 990? So the SEC lawyer, part of the argument is sinks its own ship by saying, well, it's even murkier than that. You could buy some and then you could split that. So now that helps you define your argument, right? And then the SEC lawyer then began to argue that the token purchaser's subjective intent is not important. After that statement, wow. SEC lawyer goes on to say whether the token has utility, not important. The SEC lawyer said, I think it comes out, can a reasonable purchaser can expect a profit. It's not do they, it's can they. Then the court came back and said, I agree. It's not do they, I agree, it's can. And then the court gave a hypothetical. Well, if we could nail down that 75% of LBCs were used and bought for consumptive purposes, people realize that there's also a promotion of this for investment, and the 25% were buying because of investment. Would that make it an expectation of profit? That's that expectation of profit, the only one that Gary Gensler continues, that one prong, but there's four.
It's not even the expectation of profit. It's expectation of profit from the work of others.
Correct. That's a good point, Jeff. Very good point.
So they're completely twisting the narrative here. The SEC, they're continuing to twist it, and even here, the court, and I'm surprised that we're not hearing, and maybe we do, maybe it's there someplace, but that's a solid point there. And here's the other, just as a tidbit, as we're going through this, what about gold? Is gold a security? If I buy gold with the expectation that it's going to hold or increase in value, does that make that gold purchase a security? Or if I bought a baseball card with the intent that it's $100,000 today and it'll be $150,000, who knows, 10 years from now, does that then make it, do I have an expectation of profit? Yes. Did I buy it for consumptive purpose because I want to show it off? Yes. But it also goes up in value. Or I was watching a video yesterday. This guy buys expensive watches, and he had a watch that he bought for $12,000 that's currently worth $40,000. He never took it out of the box. The expectation is that that Rolex would increase in value,
Correct.
staying within its original box. Now, he bought that for investment purposes. Does that then make that Rolex a security? And should the SEC then come after Rolex for selling securities?
Well, that's a good point. You know, my brother is a watch guy. He buys and sells watches. Arrington actually put up a tweet yesterday, and I asked him about the watch. It was an Israeli watch manufacturer, like a small batch. My brother erupted into like a giant tweet thread on his on my phone. It was telling me all about the watch, because he knows if you want to know anything about watches, that's my brother. He's a watch guy. I'm a crypto guy. He's a watch guy. He knows about crypto. I know about. He knows about watches. And Jeff, your point is so well taken. So now they're going to go after people, the collectors, and collectors of anything. There's an expectation of profit. My brother has done the same thing. He's bought stuff. He's not even owned it, and he's flipped it for like 5-10 grand. Just he bought it, he flipped it, he never even used it. It wasn't to put on his wrist to tell time, but it was the expectation he was going to profit because he immediately flipped it before he even had it. So it was an intermediary deal. And look at this from Stu Alderoty, the general counsel of Ripple. He said the SEC argued in Ripple that even a fraction, or in LBRY, that even if a fraction of people buy a token for investment purposes, you're in securities land. Does every jeweler now book one of those one-way tickets to securities land because of a fraction of their customers are investing in the oldest commodity, gold? I mean, it's right there in your face. The SEC keeps relegating the CFTC to the kids' table. We talked about this the other night, but it's important and needs to be said, because the argument is just so wonky. It's so all over the place, Jeff. And what I know at the end of this whole thing is that there's going to be a lot of happy people. And you may not have bought a ticket to a one-way ticket to securities land, but somebody is going to spend a one-way ticket to someplace else. And it's probably going to have decent food, but probably not a lot of freedom as far as where you can go and what you can do. But I have a feeling a lot of those folks, for the overreach, and we're seeing the slapdown for government overreach. We saw it in another ruling with the Supreme Court of the United States. It's very controversial, but because there was nothing in the Constitution, and because there was no legislation by Congress, it had to be, hey, let the states decide. And the overreach was by the Supreme Court in 1973 deciding something. And then, Jeff, we brought that even one step further, where the Howey test is not legislation. The Howey test came out of a Supreme Court ruling against Howey, an orange grove that's in up by Orlando, and everything's named after Howey. The Howey in the Hills is the name of the town. The original Howey Mansion is still up there. We've showed that before, and I just don't understand how we're administering the Howey test when this is not legislation. The same overreach that happened in Roe v. Wade 50 years ago is the same thing that we're looking at, the Howey test. The Supreme Court does not have any business creating any kind of test. There is no Howey test.
No jurisdiction to write laws.
No jurisdiction to write laws. And the Howey test we keep referring to came out of a Supreme Court ruling, did not come out of Congress, did not come out of a regulatory body. So in that, in its essence, should be challenged. And I think that might be the next domino to fall here. There is no Howey test. Where's the constitutionality of it?
Exactly. Yeah, I think we have some major issues with that, and the fact that, and now we're seeing the problem with it. So up until now, maybe we didn't see the full representation of the problem with the Howey test, but under a corrupted SEC, I think we're seeing the major issues. And it's not just a corrupted SEC, it's a corrupted administration that has an overzealousness of overreach across the spectrum. And so this is where the Supreme Court is the counterbalance, right? Because within government, you have your checks and your balance. And this is why we have 3 branches of government. And this is why, things take long to write into law, because it has to be weighed across, multiple processes. And so by the time it does get codified, it goes through a lot. But when you see the overreach, when you see the zealous nature of the bureaucracy, it's got to be pulled back into check. And that's what we're seeing right now. But it also has to do with the pendulum. But here, I just want to pull this one up from Lee. If I were Congress, I'd be pissed with the SEC chair for overstepping their boundary and undermining the chain of command. Gary thinks he overrules Congress. Now, the problem is he has a sympathetic ear in Congress at the moment with Maxine Waters and Pelosi and the rest of them. They like the direction that he's moving in. Because it enriches them and it fulfills their purpose. And we're seeing, a very, very clear, doctrine of, it's we that they live in a different world. And we saw what's happening right now in California with the Pelosi's, and we see two sets of law that are being applied. And so we'll see if they correct that this month. But we're seeing it very, very clearly. And it can't continue. But here we have Thomas Brennan. Gary G worked for What Corrupt Bank that has been fined billions of dollars, a small fine for gold and silver manipulation. And then Gamer for Life, define profit versus inflation and devaluation.
And this one here, Jim D says buying state lotto tickets must be a security since one is expecting profits on the efforts of others, from the efforts of others. Lady Luck.
That is solid. That is solid. That's a sham. Those lotto, it's a sham because that money does not go to education the way they spin it. It's a government tax that taxes a lot of people.
I listened to a podcast.
That's what it is.
I listened to a podcast, and if there should be any kind of, it was really great because they really took apart this whole lotto system. They took it apart nationwide, and it was eye-opening to me because I always knew there was a little bit of it, like you're talking about, of a sham. But you know who the people who participate the most in lotto is the people with the lower incomes and everything else, because it's pitched to them and the false advertising. You could win. You could change your life. And again, if we even made a shift there and said, okay, listen, you have a mobile phone, right? Great. Here's a wallet. Let's do some education. You would be better spending $5 a week, or I sometimes see people in stores that, I always go to the one counter where the lotto tickets are. I have 3 items and I get out of there fast. There's people dropping $100 every time. Well, you drop $100 every week. That's $400 invested in digital assets. Buy XRP, buy any digital asset. I don't care. Buy Bitcoin, whatever you want. Buy ETH, buy whatever. I don't care. Buy something, whatever your favorite team is, but you have a better chance of making money. Now, is it going to be jackpot money? No, but they said 0.000000. There's so many zeros about people who win. And look what happens. Look at the person that won in Illinois. They won that Powerball. After taxes, $784 million. That person's life, I hate to say it, is destroyed forever because it's public. They announce who the person is, and that person will never live unless they move to another country and they change their name and they go through a bunch of stuff. Will never have the same freedom they had before. They'll be hounded.
And that's a major problem, and I think that people don't recognize that. So for whatever reason, there's this narrative, and we see it, there's all sorts of shows. Oh, they won $1 million and they're going to buy their dream home. And it talks about, and they always ask you,
I love that show,
all this
Jeff.
Money.
Greatest show ever. Greatest show ever.
But the problem is people win money and they say, how are you going to spend it? First of all, why is that your business? Second of all, if I got it, why the hell do I have to spend it? Why is everyone in such a rush? How are you going to spend it? How are you going to spend it? It's craziness, this mindset, and they've convinced people that it's being used for the betterment of society. It is not. It is just a means of taking money out of people's pockets. And many, many, many people, like you just said, are buying lottery tickets every single week. And it's unfortunate. They could be taking it and bettering their lives, but many of them can't afford the $20 to $100 that they just bought in lottery tickets for a hope and a dream, instead of hard work and trying to figure out a way to better their lives, in a good way. And to that point, many people that win the lottery end up going bankrupt, or their lives are a disaster, because for whatever reason, people think that because you won it, they're somehow also entitled to it. Versus if you work for it and you built up a company, and you see, all these unicorns companies that sell for millions of dollars within the first couple of years, you don't hear those people going broke. You don't hear about people knocking at their doors, begging for their money. I'm sure it happens, but it's a crazy scenario that they've also created this royalty kind of mindset to where people should be groveling at the feet for the handouts.
Jeff, look at the time. We went a little bit over today, went a little bit crazy, sudden wealth syndrome. Yeah. So I want to thank everybody here. Thank you guys for your support. We really appreciate it. Great to be with you guys here on Saturday. We will be back again tomorrow night on 8 o'clock at Eastern time. That's Miami time, New York time. So we guys will see you tomorrow night. Jeff, anything you want to wrap with before we get out of here?
Want to give a shout out to everyone that supported on the chain today. I want to give a quick shout out to all of our subscribers, because we have the best and the brightest right here in YouTube crypto space. Even Alchemist. What is up, Alchemist? I always love seeing his comments.
Never misses a show, Alchemist.
Never miss a show, never misses great comments. So love that. But you guys are awesome, and look forward to seeing you guys back on tomorrow evening, Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And also a big shout out to DNI over in Thailand. So, and we can't pass this up. Lee, what is up, Lee? Appreciate that. A coffee on Lee today, or maybe a few lotto tickets. Thanks for all that OTC does. Thank you, Lee. We're going to run out and buy some OTC lotto tickets.
Lotto tickets. Yeah, it's called digital assets. That's what we like to invest in. We like to invest in digital assets, guys. Thank you so much. And also to the supporters too. You can join the channel. There's a little join button there. And it's just the way you want to help out. It helps us, helps the channel out, helps us aggregate this great content, have these great conversations that we have. You can also go to onthechain.io, and that you can join. We don't have people ask, do you have a Patreon? No. We don't like Patreon because we could be deplatformed. We run our own service. We have we run open source code on our website, something called Ghost, GHOST.org. If you go to Ghost, that's what we run. And we also, there's a built-in way to support the channel there too. And again, all that goes to us. They don't take a 12% cut. And we don't trust third parties because we like the more idea of open source and then going more towards decentralization. We don't run Patreon. I don't care for it myself. I just find out but good if you get on people that want. We're trying to convert people over to open source code and more decentralization.
And go to crypto-law.us and check out all the great things that John Deaton is doing.
And subscribe.
Join up and subscribe. Yeah, join up. That's it, Chip.
Get us to 70,000 guys. Chip, Jeff. We'll see you guys on the next one tomorrow night. Come on back.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops. Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.